Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, there we go. If you guys heard that, yeah, Deb, that was not one of Deb's dog's toys that she's shaking. She was shaking her coffee.
Have you seen like the white girl memes where they're just like shaking the ice in their coffee?
No, but I feel like I just lived through one right now.
Yep, there you
You feel
go.
good about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I really wanted to do that. I was like, I'm going to shake my ice.
Well, mission accomplished. It really threw me off. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that.
You're like, what is she doing? Happy Tuesday.
Deborah, hello. It's good to
Hello.
see you as always.
Yeah, you
I
asked
hope
me how
you're.
I was doing before we recorded. You're like, how are you doing? I didn't ask you how you're doing. How are you doing?
You know what? I appreciate that. That was the manicured version of what happened. I'm gonna tell people what really happened. So when Deb and I first started podcasting, especially when we started podcasting remotely, like we do now, I just had a really bad habit of just kind of like, okay, you ready to go? And I would just jump in. I wouldn't ask how she was doing. Wouldn't ask how her day was. I was a bad co-host. There was none of that stuff beforehand. I was like, hey, let's talk about this and let's go. So over the years, I've done better. And today I fell back in my old ways. I'm like, all right, cool. Connection, we're good. And one, two, oh, how are you doing today? That's what really happened. So I appreciate that Deb tried to paint me in a better light, which is a little suspicious because I feel like anytime we have a chance to paint each other in a bad light, we do it. So I'm a little nervous that Deb didn't take the shot, but
I'm never offended if you don't ask me though, because it's like I'm a workhorse, and it's like I think like when I was like playing sports, like my coaches didn't ask me how we're doing. We just did. We just okay. Why aren't you guys running it? Go. Why are you
sure.
guys staring at me?
I appreciate that. And this confirms something I've known for a long time, that Deb refers to me and looks at me like a coach, someone she admires and looks up to in this podcasting game. So makes me feel good.
Yes, coach.
Well, that I don't like that.
Just kidding.
Run.
Yeah, this already is kicked in. I spilled it just now on the table in front of me too. So
Oh no.
I need to stop talking with my hands.
You're a real mess.
I know.
And we're back. Sorry,
And
we
we're
had a
back.
little family thing on my end. All of the homework stuff is in the office, and usually we grab that, especially in these earlier recordings. I usually grab that stuff and put it out there before we start recording. Did not do that today.
Dang
So I
it.
had to give some pencils and colored pencils and get some homework done. So there we go.
There you go. And I got to see Rachel and chit chat with her for a second. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
probably gonna be Deb's favorite part of this recording tonight. So
yeah. She put the headphones on and everything. It was cute. So Josh, you didn't hear what we said, did we? Did you?
no,
Okay, good.
I'll get the scoop from her later. It's like, I know she was talking about what'd she say.
Yeah, cool.
Anyways, I forgot what we were talking about.
I was shaking my coffee, right? And I was saying I'm all hyper, and I spilled my coffee
You
already.
spilled the whole thing. Yep.
Within the first, I don't know how long, 2 minutes of recording. I've developed a really bad addiction to Starbucks.
Okay.
It's because I'll make a whole. I have enough coffee at home. I make a whole carafe of French press in the morning. I drink half of it while I'm getting ready and take the other half to work. Drink it at work. And that's plenty, right? Anyone who does French press, like the whole thing, that's plenty. And then on the way home, I know I don't need caffeine, but I want one anyway, so I get a coffee like on the way home.
Okay.
I'm like, why? I don't need caffeine. So I tried to like switch to decaf, and they don't do decaf cold brew, which is my favorite thing to get. Like it's just not a thing.
Sure.
So anyway, it's a problem right
So you just
now.
made the choice, like you wanted the cold brew, so
Yeah.
bring on the caffeine. Now, how much does caffeine affect you? Like right now, you're drinking right now. It is currently
It's
5 o'clock. Does that mess you up for the rest of the night?
Depends. Sometimes, to be honest, I'm so used to it. I'll be asleep not by like 10:30, 11.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not. It doesn't like I'm not up all night. Like I'm not like I can't sleep. But I've always been a good sleeper. I've always had almost zero the times that
You've
I
almost
have.
fallen asleep on this podcast, so I'm aware.
See, there you go. And
That's not a joke, people. She has started leaning on this
Mhm.
podcast. Go ahead.
Yeah, sleepy time, 8 o'clock. So, but it's 5 o'clock now, so it's great. But the times that what jacks my sleep up is if I drink alcohol right before bed, like even like a little sip of wine. Like we had a glass of wine before bed for the first time in a long time. I try not to do that anymore. I don't know why, I just felt like it. I just was craving some wine, and I was laying in bed, had just one little glass, was watching a show. The wine initially makes me sleepy, like relaxed. So I laid down, went to sleep, but I was tossing and turning all night. Like, I was like, this is nuts. Like, I'm not doing that ever again. Like, and I'll toss and turn like maybe twice or two or three times, and to kind of
Sure.
move and roll over, like kind of move my hips, you know. But I could not go back to sleep. It was awful. So ironically, it's the wine that keeps me up, not the caffeine.
Interesting.
Yeah, it disrupts my sleep.
What do you do when you toss and turn? I mean, is there ever a point where you're like, I'm gonna watch TV, or do you just fight through it?
You know what? Sometimes if my TV is off, sometimes I will put the TV on to just have something, but I also have like ocean waves playing on my phone to try to like
Gotcha.
calm. But if that's not working either, then sure, I'll flip the TV on to kind of change things up. That's also not good for you though either.
Right.
I don't remember what I did that night. I don't know how I fell back to sleep. I just know I didn't sleep well that night. So
That's tough.
mhm. Yeah. So it's not, the caffeine is not, caffeine is like it's caffeine's not the culprit. It's alcohol.
Okay.
It's alcohol. Anyway,
That felt like a confessional of
it
some
was.
kind.
Yeah.
It's like I know it's doing this, but like an admission.
Right.
Well, there you go. I had another question for you, but now I can't remember. Oh no, this is what it was. So you as a teacher, what's the go-to caffeine for the students these days?
You know what? They will come in with Dutch, but not like coffee in their Dutch. They'll come in with like the energy, like the fruity drinks from Dutch.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's caffeine in there or not.
Probably. Right? Isn't
Yeah.
that isn't I mean, I've actually never been there, but isn't they have some kind of Red Bull drink, don't they?
Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, they don't walk into the gym with like they don't drink energy drinks, at least not most of them, like monsters or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. They mostly drink like soda.
Oh,
Like that,
really?
like that's their caffeine. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I still do the energy drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
delicious.
Ugh.
What?
And you don't do coffee, right? So you do energy drinks. I do coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the coffee.
Yeah, I don't like coffee. I do like energy drinks though.
Yeah.
And I don't, and as I've mentioned before, I don't drink either. So this is energy drinks is kind of it for me.
Like a 2 in 1. See, I'm bad. I have the caffeine and I have the alcohol thing going for me. I sounded like an alcoholic right now.
You know,
I am not motivated. See what I did there? I am not motivated to give up either of them right now, though.
that's a great segue into our. It's a sad segue, but it's it is still a segue nonetheless. We
um,
are we are talking about motivation, and like I
yeah,
mentioned last time, we had a lot of fun on our last episode, which actually posted today, which was the millennial throwback top fives. A lot of
yeah,
fun, and as you guys have known, if you guys know this podcast, you know we're all over the place on our topic. So today we are actually picking a specific topic and diving into it, and we decided to talk about motivation, which is funny. Sometimes like there's certain topics that for whatever reason, I mean, I know why I do it, but I
mhm,
tend to avoid it for this podcast because I do another podcast, a home team Sacramento podcast, which is geared towards athletes. And if you've listened to this podcast, you know that that's kind of how Deb and I got started in podcasting in the first place. It was through a sports podcast that was geared towards coaches and athletes, high school coaches and athletes. And so there are some times where I think of certain topics. I'm like, it feels like it's too much like this podcast that I do on the side here. But then I thought, no, but motivation is something that is not just, it doesn't just cater, it's not catered towards sports. It's motivations for anybody, right? Like we talk about motivation in all aspects of life, and it's not just a sports thing. So that's kind of how I came to this. I'm like, oh man, it's more of a sports thing, but I'm like, no, it's something that applies and I think connects to anybody. And it is an interesting topic because I think we're motivated in different ways, and I think there's things that motivate us. There's things that those same things don't motivate other people,
yeah,
and it's just always interesting. And I think it's an interesting way in how we connect with ourselves and how we connect with other people. Like obviously, we have people in our lives that I think are very motivational, and I think the things they do and say motivate us. And then I think there's times where all that motivation needs to come from within, right? And at the end of the day, I think trying to find motivation for things The only person that can actually make the steps and take the steps to do something is us. And so we can have all of the motivation and all the motivational people around us, but if we're not willing to take that first step, then that's all it is. It's motivation. It's you're building yourself up, you're hyping yourself up, but it doesn't lead to anywhere. And I think that's where it's motivation is really interesting, because we all love motivation. We love the motivational videos, and we love to post motivational quotes and motivational reels and clips on Instagram and TikTok. But if that's all there is, then it's just that. It's just motivational, but we don't do anything with it. And so I was just curious how we connect motivation to action. And then, I was just curious, especially, when we were texting about it, I had mentioned to you about kind of connecting this idea of motivation with this new venture that you're on with going back to school for psychology. And you touched on it a little bit in what you're doing and all that, but like, what was the motivation for you behind that?
Initially, sorry, I'm giving Nala another bully stick. She's pacing me.
This time she is giving a treat to her dog. It's not like her shaking her drink, which was for herself. This is a treat for her dog.
Yeah, she's trained me. She knows that I'm podcasting, and she sits there. She's like, "When do I get my bully stick now?" And she eats it as fast as she can. I swear, so she could have another one because she knows we're still recording.
It's a smart dog.
This is why I'm not a parent. This is why I only have a dog. So I'm just kidding. So initially, with wanting to go back to school to do the psychology thing, it's more so for myself. Like just psychology in general just interests me. Things like, like mental health, like how the brain works. Like I'm very curious about, like, why do we make the decisions we do? What motivates, us to change or to not change. Like, I don't know what it is, but anytime like a podcast would pop up or an article or even like a documentary about it, I just am like, I read it, I listen to it, and it's just, I learn something about myself every time, like, I dive into that world of psychology. And I think that's why part of me is so interested in true crime, because I'm like, what, why? And obviously I'm not trying to solve why murderers are the way they are, like why bad people do bad things, like that's a whole nother thing. But I am curious as to like how the brain works and how we can get out of our own head. And I was listening to Mel Robinson the other day. I'm obsessed with her podcast too. I think that's what I was listening to. Sorry, my notes, I'm not prepared to tag anything, but I have notes, but I didn't. Yeah. I just not thought of that. But she said something like, our words are so powerful, like the things that we say to ourselves, and then we just kind of make it true, and how like we definitely hold ourselves back. So for a while, for sure, for a year almost, I've been telling myself, like, I've been giving myself hints like, you like this stuff, why don't you just go like study it, like for real? Like, don't just look up articles, don't just listen to podcasts. Like, you're not an active participant, you're just listening to it. Like, be an active participant. And then, so that's, how when you have like one side, someone, the little angel on the shoulder and the devil on this shoulder. Sorry, Nala got a hold of her squeak toy now. So gonna be in the back. That side would be like, why don't you just study it and just see what you learn and apply it and just see where it goes, see if you like it. And the other side was like, you don't have time, would just make all the excuses. You don't have time for that. You want to pay for that? That's going to be expensive. Yeah. Like, keep working your multiple jobs to pay for that then. And really, seriously, you think you're going to change careers at the age of 37, 39, 30, 40? Like, so it's been a constant like back and forth. And so finally, and I know myself, and this is what happened when I went to massage school. I was finally just like, something clicked. I don't know, something more, I think, powerful than me. Just kind of, it's almost like I black out and I just do it. And I'm just like, I'm just doing it. And I don't have a plan really. I kind of have a plan. But I'm just going to do it. And it feels right to do it. So I'm going to see what happens. So yeah. So earlier last month, started making some phone calls, was very skeptical. I was like, I don't even know if can I get my master's in psychology? I have a bachelor's in kinesiology. Like, I just didn't know the requirements. And I was like, I bet I can't. I bet I'm going to call and ask, and I bet they're going to say, nope, you need a bachelor's in psychology. And I'm not going back to get a bachelor's just to get a master's. Like that was my deal breaker. Right. So I
Yeah.
had some deal breakers in my head. And I was like, and I don't want to take out any more student loans. I'm already paying off my student loans now. My goal is no debt. So I'm going to have to make a choice. So that was my thought process. And then I reached out and they're like, no, you don't need a bachelor's in kinesiology. You just need a bachelor's. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, well, what about payment? They're like, no, we don't even do student loans. It's a pay as you go. Like we
Mm.
don't provide. And I was like, oh, okay. So I could pay as I go. They're like, yeah. I was like, sweet. And I was like, oh crap, that means I'm really going to do this. So like, then my excuses are out the window now at this point.
Sure.
And I knew it was a done deal when I looked at the list of classes and I started geeking out on all the topics.
Yeah.
And these are things I would look up on my own anyway, like for like podcasts, like articles, like if I see something like, again, video, like something like that pops up, boom, I click on it and I'm like, what's this about? Like that looks like, to me, it's interesting. And so I don't know. What was your original question? I'm just talking, but like, but
No, that's good.
I let the doubts fade into the background, like just kind of fade. And like, it's almost like, well, let me just see.
Yeah.
This is something that I want to do. And so here I am, and my classes start on Saturday. So boom, there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that was good. I think my initial question was, what was it that motivated you
Yeah.
to kind of start down this
Got it.
path?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was kind of as simple as you were it was something you're interested in and you were spending time looking into. So, thought,
Yeah.
well, why not take that next step?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just, and it was more so on a deeper level. I want to learn, I learn about myself the more I study these topics and learn about, how your brain works and how you make decisions and how you talk to yourself and how you can't, like, your mind is a powerful thing. And I've been to therapy, I've been to group therapy, I've read lots of books about like how your mind is super powerful, like what you say to yourself matters. And just, I mean, we could branch off into different things. Clearly I really like this, psychology and the way we think and how it affects our life and, the world around us. But it's mostly for me, but I'm also like, well, if I can make it work towards something, then cool, we'll see where that goes. But I'm always wanting to, not here to judge my dead podcast that is hopefully will bring back to life soon one day.
Hey, it's not dead. If you want to go back in the archives, it's still there.
Still there. The episodes are still there.
It's on life support, but it is still alive.
On life support. It's in the hospital.
Yeah.
All of those topics are like mental health related,
Sure.
like along those, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about like trauma. We're talking about just how we view ourselves. So like, that's what I love talking about. I can jam out on those topics all day long. So I'm like, why not study it and just really try to get something out of it? But I'm also telling myself, if it doesn't work out, that's also okay.
Sure.
Because I've learned in my life, you don't have to, like, just because I'm like, oh, I'm doing this now and people know, I don't have to kill myself to keep it going. I'm not going to be like, well, I already told everyone. No, like, people know me by now. I don't care. I'm okay saying, nope, I stopped doing that. That didn't work out. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm trying something else now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's your life and you get to choose, what you want to do to be happy in the things that interest you. So my motivation is, this is what interests me, and I'm just going to try to make it work. And it's that old saying, if you want to, you will, right?
Yeah.
It's genuine. It's to the point. It's so true. If you want to, you will. If you don't want to do it, you're going to make excuses. If you're not motivated enough, you're going to make excuses. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, for example, I love running half marathons. I love having a beer at the end. I love getting my cowbell at the end of Urban Cow. I am not motivated to run a full marathon.
Sure.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
After my half marathon, I'm like, I don't want to do that again. So right away.
Yeah.
So and I could tell people, yeah, like maybe I'll try training, but like, I don't want to, so I'm not going to.
Sure.
But I'm motivated to do a half marathon. So I'm going to do it. I'm so motivated that I don't even train. I just go do it.
Right.
Properly. So it really is, though. It's, if you want to, you will. It's funny. I equate it to my dating life.
Everybody from this, just a
I,
little warning. As we mentioned earlier, she is hopped up
I'm
on caffeine. So anything she says from this point forward, just
on
take it with a
one.
grain of salt.
I'm on one. No,
No, go ahead.
um, it's. I mean, it's like I wish someone would date me the way I date my career. Like I pursue.
I'm not sure. Go ahead. No, go ahead, please. I can't wait to see what this means.
Well, like I pursue my passion and I find new things and new ways to keep it interesting, and I'm not afraid of rejection or failure. I'm just gonna go for it. Like it takes practice and there's failures and successes, but um, yeah, if I want to, I will.
So how does that connect to the dating life?
If you want to, you will. You will ask people out on date. Okay, we'll get away from me, and not just me, but like anybody. Like, and I love making it about relationships too because it correlates. Like, if you want to ask someone out on a date, you will. If you want to, you will. And that's just, I mean, yeah, I could go to Not Here to Judge. You guys can listen to some stories, but I I joke with my friends. I'm like, I'm so good at about pursuing my career and the things that I want to do because I'm not afraid of rejection or failure. Like when guys come into my world, whenever that is, and they date me for like a week or two, and then they're just like whatever. I'm like I like if someone could like have as much passion about trying to like ask me on a date as I do about my career, he's golden. It's not that hard. So that's so there you go. If you want to, you will.
All right, there you go.
So there's your message.
I like it. I like it. I have a bunch of comments, but I'm going to keep these to myself today.
Go
So,
for it.
nah, it's okay.
I want to hear.
Nah, it's fine. So, no, that's all good. That's all good. No, I did. One thing I did want to talk about, and that you kind of alluded to it a little bit, talking about how if you want to do something, if you're passionate about something, you'll find the motivation to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of part of it. If you're motivated, if you love it, you'll be motivated to do it, which is great, and I agree with that. But I do think, and I think you could probably relate to this as a teacher. Excuse me. There's a lot of stuff in this world that we don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to do, right? And then that's where you start hearing people say like, "Oh, I just couldn't find the motivation to do it." It's like, well, that's fine, you didn't find the motivation, but sometimes you just got to do it. Like it's not really when I'm motivated, I'll do it. It's like that's okay, but it's going to make life more difficult, right? For example, I'm sure you have students that do not love PE, which I'm sure is a shock to everybody. But there's some people, PE would probably be the last thing on their list of things that they love about school.
Right.
But it's something that you know is important for them, and they need to do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's probably zero motivation to actually get that done, and maybe the only motivation is because of they need to pass it, otherwise they got to run it back and do it again. So I always feel like that's an interesting part of motivation too, is that there are things. And I think our friend Kevin Bracey once said there's things, and he was talking to students when he said this. He's like, there's things that you have to do, and there's things that you got to do. And he's like, there's a difference between those two things, and those things that you've got to do, it doesn't matter whether or not you're motivated or not. Like you just have to do it, and you kind of have to suck it up. And then yeah, the motivation, hopefully you're motivated to do the things that you love to do and that you want to do and you want to attempt to do. But it's always interesting because sometimes I feel like people use motivation in weird. I'm just not motivated to do it. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter if you're motivated to do it. Like you just have to do it.
Yeah.
There's things in life. There's all these things in life that we don't want to do.
Right.
And there's a ton of stuff that I'm not technically necessarily motivated to do. But you know what? I
Mm-hmm.
suck it up and do it because I'm an adult and I have a family and there's people that are relying on me, right? Same with you. There's probably things about your job that you don't want to do, but you got to do it. And if
Yeah.
you said, "Hey, Deb, are you motivated to do this piece of your job?" Mm-mm. But
Absolutely
you
not.
but you got to do it. So it's like I always feel like sometimes like motivation, it's a good thing because it keeps us going, but it also can't be the thing that everything that we do hinges on, right? Like
Right.
there's sometimes you just got to do things. And again, this as a trainer, a former trainer, right? Like sure, there's certain things that your athletes probably didn't love. But if you want to be bigger, faster, and stronger to the best of your ability,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to do those things.
Yeah.
And oh, I'm not motivated. Well, I hate to tell you, whether you're motivated or not, you got to get this done.
Yeah.
And so that's always a weird thing for me with like motivation. It's not meant to be like a crutch. that you hold on to keep yourself going. It's meant to be something that, you know, kind of helps you accelerate to get to the place where you're trying to go faster. But like I said, there's some things that you just got to do, and whether you like it or not, it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with motivation.
Yeah. You make a really good point. Like you were saying, like, I bet at work you're not
Thank you.
motivated. What?
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
You make a great point. No, because that's the flip side of it, right? It's like we're not always going to be motivated. I know that probably in a few weeks when I'm deep into some of my assignments and I realize I got to write papers again, I'm probably not going to be motivated to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm just
Yeah.
going to be like, nope, you decided to do this, like let's go. And so no, yeah, it's not going to be all like, raisy or daisies and rainbows and, sunshine. And like same thing with Nala. When I know that I have to get up and walk her in the 30-degree weather right now, which is crazy how cold it is at 6:30 in the morning and it's dark outside,
It's
like
very
I don't
chilly.
want to do it. Oh, I'm bundled up like we're going to the snow. But I look at her and she's looking at me like, "Are we going to go?" Like it's time to go. And I know I need to walk her because I'm going to go to work all day and I can't. She needs to get her in here. Like so, it's like I end up finding a why. Like I just need to do it. Like I have to.
Yeah.
But do I want to? No.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's a good point, though. Excuse me.
I find so some most things, not all things, most things I'll try to find a motivation. And then like for my like teaching, like, do I want to talk to these kids right now? No, I got to stop breathing, count to three right now. Like I can't stand them right now, but I need to pay my bills and
Yeah.
I can't get fired.
Yeah.
So that's my motivation. So whatever I need to find, I find it, even if it's like, not, the nicest motivation. But,
Well, no,
oh, right.
but
Yeah.
I think you make a good point. Like with the
Mhm.
this whole idea of what's your why, right? Especially coming from like the sports world, you hear that phrase all the time. What's your why? What's your why? Why do you do the things that you do? And I think the what's your why is a good bridge between the things that you don't want to do and motivation, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're doing those things that suck and you have a reason why you need to get those things done, I think that bridge leads to motivation, right? And so it's not necessarily, hey, you know what? I don't like doing yard work, right? I hate pulling weeds. I don't like, but the why is, hey, if you don't do it, then your house doesn't look as nice as it could. Hey,
Hmm.
if you don't do it, then at some point it's going to become a bigger project that's even more of a headache and is going to be more irritating and more difficult. And so all of a sudden that why leads you to more of the motivation piece, right? Where it's like, okay, if I don't do it, this is what's going to happen. So I don't want that to happen. So yeah, I need to take care of X, Y, and Z to prevent that from happening. All of a sudden that why leads you to motivation. Like you said, you don't want to today, you don't want to deal with these kids that are talking back and giving you attitude. But you start thinking about it, so well, if I don't, you know, it is my job. I get paid to do it. I gotta make these steps so I can continue to get paid to do it. That's the motivation. So I think having a why, like I said, is a bridge, a good bridge between those things that you don't want to do and why you're doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Finding the motivation to do it. And I think it's important for all of us. I think we all need those whys. And that's why I was thinking about that. And I've mentioned this before for myself, a big why for me and a big motivator for me and something that I feel like dictates a lot of my decisions and the things that I attempt or don't attempt is my family and my kids. Like there's a huge piece of me where I just want to make sure that anything that I do, anything that I attempt, that they can see that and hopefully it's a positive example for them to one day try things or be motivated to do things, right? And I want them to be able to see me and say, man, we're just used to dad doing these things. This is how life is. And, you know, I was even the other day, I ran 13 miles and I was telling my wife, I said, it was weird in the middle of the run. You have plenty of time to think, right? I'm not that fast either. So it's like a lot of time out there to think about just different things. And one of the things that pops in my head is like, why are you doing this? Why are you
Yeah.
running? I'm not training for anything. I don't love running. I don't mind running. I'm not going to say I hate it. I don't love it though. And so you start thinking about those things. It's like you try to stay, for me, I try to stay in better shape. I try to be conscious of all of these different things, my health, fitness, all those things, because especially in this period of time where my daughters are the ages they are, they love playing with me and they love playing games. And I never want to get to a point where they come up to me and say, "Hey, Daddy, can you play this? Can you play that?" And I'm like, "Oh, Daddy's too tired. Daddy's this. Daddy's that, and I don't have the energy. I'm too lazy." If we're going to be honest, like I never want that to be a reason why I can't do something. So I want to make sure that I'm taking care of the things that I need to do for my own body, so that I can always play with them. And so when they come up and ask me, "Hey, can we play?" Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter that I ran 13 miles. I'm not going to sit there and think, "Well, Daddy ran 13 miles." Well, Daddy shouldn't have ran 13 miles if he can't handle business after that. And so I never want that to be an excuse. And so part of the motivation to stay in shape is, one, making sure that I'm there for them and I can enjoy these moments in life with them, because you only get one shot, right? Like they're only this age for a little bit. And so I want to make sure that I'm in a place where I can enjoy every single moment, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all those different things. And I can do it to the best of my ability. And then that way, on the occasions when they say, "Hey, Daddy, can you play?" It's like, Daddy has to take care of something. They know that if I have to take care of something, it's because there's something important that I have to do. And it's not because I'm too lazy, I'm too tired, I have no energy, I don't care enough. Like they'll know. It's like, even in the subconscious of their mind, they're like, okay, if he says no right now, there must be something that he needs to take care of, because almost every other time he's going to say yes to spending time with us and hanging out. And so that's a big motivator for me. And it's probably a broken record at this point, but like I've
Yeah.
just never understood. And again, there's people have different reasons, but I've never understood specifically these dads that just don't get that. Like it's such a weird thing to me, um, when they just don't, when that's not when their family and their kids aren't the reason for why they do things. It's just insane to me. And it's like that should be your main source of motivation. You know what I mean? Like that should be the thing that drives you to be a better person and a better man. And so that's why, like, I have a lot of respect for, again, people that have been on the show before. You look at guys like my buddy Trav Cole, Blake Kidwell. You see all this crazy stuff that he does physically, but then you see how he is as a dad and a husband. And then you look at our friend of the show, Paul Marshall. You see all the crazy runs that he does, and then you see these other videos and pictures of him and his daughters and his family. And it's like you can just tell that these guys, that's their reason for why they do what they do. It's like, yeah, they want to push their bodies, just so they can, but that also, yeah, there's more behind it. Like they want to be there for their families, and they want to be that example of, you know, someone who like, tries to achieve excellence in everything they do. So it's kind of a long-winded thing, but like for me, that's just where a lot of the motivation comes from too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Well, that's great because aside from everything you said, like I'm sure you also want to model for your daughters that when they grow up and they're dating someone or about to marry someone, like they want someone that also was involved, hardworking, didn't make excuses, right? Like
yeah,
you're also, so not only are you like dedicated to, and I'm giving you praise, and at the same time, I'm trying to, to tell our listeners my thought process behind this. So I'm
yeah,
not trying to blow your ego up too much, but
it's
no,
too
you're
late. It's already there.
it's already there. You're, not only are you like, no, I want to, like, my family's my motivation. That's your why, but you're also at the same time, without realizing it, modeling for your daughters what it should look like for them to be with someone in the future, you
Yeah,
know, um, and it motivates them to work hard as well. But they see, like, daddy and mommy like worked hard. So when they get older, hopefully they are, when they like have, and I'm sure you don't want to think about it, but their wedding day and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
they,
No, it's a long time from that.
a long time,
Long
no,
time from now. But yeah, no.
when you're
Um,
modeling.
yeah, no. It's. I'm glad you said that. That's a big part of it for me too. Because that's something that you think about. And I've before we even had kids, I told my wife, like when she was pregnant, I said that has kind of become, again, my motivation or my mindset, is that you want to live life in a certain way that challenges them and encourages them and motivates them just by the way I live. And then I always look at it like this: like I'm setting the standard, to your point, setting the standard for any other guy that comes into their life that even considers one, that is considering trying to date them. The goal, and I think this should be for every dad, in my opinion, is like, yeah, your goal should be to set that standard. And any guy who comes into their life, uh, hopefully, is a better person, better man than I am. and you're setting that standard for them. So if any clown comes in and is doing something less than that, you want,
Yeah.
in my perspective, you want their mindset to be like, well, no, I'm not going to even give this dude the time of day because he doesn't meet the standard that's already been set up in my
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah.
And so that's the
Yeah.
goal. So it's like you, and from how I treat my wife and how they see me treat my wife, or how I treat them or people in general, that has always been the motivation.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we talked about, you and I kind of talked about how competition is a part of the motivation too. I am a competitive person. And so
Mhm.
in my mind, that's part of the competition where it's like, yeah, if any of you guys that would even consider trying to date one of my daughters, just know the standard is going to be set incredibly high. And if
Yeah.
any of you guys can jump up and meet that standard, good for you. But you're gonna have to do better than that. And you have to do better than me. And I hope that happens. But it's not gonna be like an easy thing, because you see some of these people, and you see I mean, hopefully this doesn't bother anybody that listens to this, but you see some of the people that uh, people start dating, like, how in the world were was your family cool with this clown? Like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, you can say, oh, it's love or whatever, but like, this person kind of sucks.
Mhm.
And it's wild that, but again, it's like, hopefully the filter they use to find someone,
Mhm.
um, is through a lens that is so high that it filters out a lot of garbage, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know what I
Or
mean?
you,
But
yeah, or you would think so, right? I think
you would hope.
don't I don't know that enough people think that way in terms of like, oh, what am I modeling for my kids? I'm not a parent, obviously, clearly, but like
Well, no,
I
but
do.
sorry, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
this is, I want your opinion. Sorry, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you this because I'm glad you said that. You're not a parent, but you deal with the products of a lot of parents every year. And so you're seeing some of that, and unfortunately you deal with some of the parents
Yeah.
of those kids. It's like but so you're not a parent, but you do get to see firsthand what that's like.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Every day, hundreds of them.
And some of them are in bad, and you talk about motivation.
Yeah.
um Again, we don't need to go too far into this if you don't want to, but it, the it's crazy because obviously, like, there's a lot of kids that don't have that motivation.
Hmm.
And the motivation comes at the end of the semester when their parents scramble because they like realize, oh, little Tommy has a horrible grade in PE class. Miss McCollum, how can I fix this? It was like, well, this is not great, because there's no motivation there. The motivation is from the parent saying,
Hmm.
how do we fix this? But the kid doesn't care.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean? And so it's like, so yeah, so you're not a parent, but like, you're seeing the results of that lack of, you know,
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. Does that make sense? What I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Well, yeah.
say?
No, our department, we try to teach our kids, like, hey, you guys are in high school now. And
Mm.
especially like I have the older kids, the sophomores, a couple of juniors and seniors, a couple of them, mostly sophomores. But I'm like, I, I basically say, I don't want an email from your parent
Mm-hmm.
ever, unless there needs to be a serious issue, or if your parent emails me, that means you're telling them like something is being miscommunicated at home. Like, clearly they have a right to email me if they want to, but I tell them like, you need to talk to me. I don't want to, if I don't want your parent to email me asking about your grade or asking if you can be excused from PE for the day. I want to hear it from you.
Yeah,
And to be honest, like, I don't answer the parents' emails anyway at first. I'll go talk to the kid first.
sure.
And I'm like, can you tell, you're right here. You could tell me because nothing's going to change. Like, but I'm going to tell you anyway that, hey, your parent emailed me and said this. Let me hear it from you. What is going on?
Yeah.
So for them to take accountability. But yeah, I'm like, you guys, dude, you guys are at this age, like, your parents know. I think back when I was in high school, I would be so embarrassed if my parents emailed my teachers.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
I did everything I could to keep my parents out of, nope. They're like, do I need to? Nope, I got it. I'm gonna handle it. Nope, do not email my teacher. That is embarrassing.
But see,
Like,
but see, that's what I'm saying. You were motivated to do that. Like, you had a reason why you wanted to kind of stay motivated
yeah.
and prevent that from happening, because you wanted to handle it on your own. I feel like
Mhm.
that's not the case anymore.
It's not. I see it a lot. A lot of these kids, yeah. They're not motivated, and there are too many parents that email me. My friends who are parents to high school kids right now will call me and be like, "You're a teacher to high school kids. Here's what I want to do and say to this teacher. What do you think?" And I say, "No. Do
Yeah.
not, your kid needs to talk to their teacher. Why are you emailing their teacher?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, because I'm like, nope. And so I always tell them, I try to give them one of my friends who has a middle school kid did ask for my advice of going to admin about something, but it actually had to do with bullying and fighting.
Sure.
So that was
A little
different.
different.
So it depends, right? It's different. I'm like, hey, if this is not being resolved and you feel uncomfortable as a parent and it has to do with possible fight, yeah, go to the office.
Yeah.
Like you have a right to protect your kid, yes. But another friend would come to me and it was about an assignment. I'm like, no,
Right.
do not email that teacher. That does not look good for your daughter. Your daughter needs to go up and talk to the teacher. So they'll ask me and I'll tell them. And I'm like, they're like, what do you like to see? And I'm like, I don't want to see parent emails.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Your kid is a teenager. They know what they're doing. Maybe they're not motivated, but if you do it for them, they're never going to be motivated.
Right. And like I said, that's where this idea of motivation versus some things you just have to do, whether you're motivated or not. Like I feel like that's what I've always looked at with school. Like it's the reality is not everybody's going to be interested or inspired by PE. Not everybody's
Yeah.
going to be interested or motivated or inspired by English. And pick your subject. Like I was terrible at math. Nothing. I always dreaded going to math class. I'm like, oh, here we go again. I suck at this. But for me, I still got decent grades in math classes because my motivation was I don't want to do this again. I'm going to
Mhm.
pass the class because one, I want to do well, but two, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to retake this. So that was my motivation. It didn't require my mom to say like, well, we just need little Josh to pass math class. She's like, no, if you got to do what you got to do to
Mhm.
get past the math class. And I remember I was taking geometry my freshman year of high school and I'm like, I don't get this at all. But the teacher had this policy. He's like, okay, we have these quizzes and then we have these tests. He said between tests, you can make up your test, or you can not make up. You can retry your test as many times as you want until the next test. Once that next test rolls around, your window for retrying is done because now we're on to the next one. So
Mhm.
he's like, I'll be here before school, during lunch, after school. Take it as many times as you want until you get the grade that you want. And I would do that. I took so many tests so many times, not because I wanted to, not because I was obsessed with trying to get a great grade. It was like, no, I'm holding myself to a certain standard. Like I need to do this to, one, I want to pass the class. Two, I was also playing baseball. So you want to make sure that we were never in jeopardy, which I never was, but you still wanted to make sure that you were never in jeopardy for, not being academically eligible. But like, that was the thing. And then you had other people that just didn't take advantage of that life preserver that teacher was throwing to us. And then at the end, and this at the end of the year, it's like, well, why didn't I get a better grade? It's like, well, you didn't take advantage of the opportunities. You weren't motivated. And you also didn't just kind of flip your mindset saying, hey, I hate math. I'm not motivated to learn this, but I need to do it. I need to do it. You know what I mean? And so it's a weird thing. Like I said, I feel for you guys because you guys have to deal with it all the time. And, you know, that's again, like I said, that's just, I don't know. It's a weird thing because I feel like we tell people that you got to find the stuff that you love to do. And I think when you find something that you love to do, like I love podcasting. And so I find ways to make it work. If I have to edit it, I don't enjoy editing, but I do it because I know we have to do it to get these podcasts out and all these different parts of podcasting. But I love it so much. Like I'll find time to do it,
Yeah.
and but that doesn't give me the response, like the excuse to just, you know, not do my other responsibilities. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I love podcasting, so I'm going to give all my time and effort to that. But I don't really enjoy washing dishes. So, I don't really, I mean, I'm not passionate about it. I'm not motivated to do it. Like, well, no one is. You got to do it though. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. That's where like motivation is weird sometimes. I feel like sometimes we want to make it seem like you just focus on the stuff you're passionate about and then not the rest. But it's like, there's still stuff you got to do. Like, I hate to keep coming back to that, but
Yeah.
like, it's weird to
Yeah.
me when
Oh,
there's
for
that
sure.
disconnect between the two things.
Yeah. Well, for example, like dishes, something as simple as dishes for me, if I get home late at night or like I'm going back and forth between like letting Nala out and then I have a client and then I come home, let her out, and then I go grab a drink with a friend. And then when I come home at the end of the night and I have some dishes in my sink, for me, I know that if I don't put them away, I don't want to. I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I just want to like go straight to my bedroom
Mm-hmm.
and sleep or jump in the shower and then go to sleep, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to look at those. If I skip that, I know from experience that in the morning I'm going to be cranky because I hate seeing dishes in the sink when I wake up. Like, but that's just me. Like, I need a clean space when I wake up. It makes me feel at peace. It makes me feel happy. I know that if I don't clean up a mess in here in the kitchen, living room, I even put Nala's toys away before I go to bed because I just know myself. I created a good morning routine for myself to wake up peaceful and not stressed. And I know dishes in my sink will irritate me. And especially if my French press carafe is not cleaned out and ready to go in the
Yeah.
next morning. Oh my God. I've mistakenly done that. There's been times where I like didn't even look at my sink. I just walked and, crashed
Oh,
in my bed. And in the morning I get up and I'm like, I have
that
to like
morning's gone.
and I'm like
Yeah.
wanting my coffee now. And I'm like, seriously. So I know, so that's, so I know for me, I know what the consequence feels like. Unfortunately, saying that word, because that
Yeah.
is, I know I'm going to be cranky. And sometimes I do pick my battle. Sometimes I'm like, it's fine. I'll let it, like, I'm just going to have to deal with it in the morning. But that's my own, bed to lay in, I guess, so to speak.
No,
but
that's good.
yeah,
I'm
it's
go. Sorry, go ahead.
it's a give or take. Yeah, no, that's it. I think that's what I
No,
would say.
I'm glad you said consequence because I think that's really what it comes down to sometimes for motivation, right? When you're trying to find
Mhm.
that motivation, you're either motivated because you love doing the thing that you're about to do and you can't think of doing anything else because you love that thing so much. And so your
Yeah.
motivation is like, I love this, so I want to do it as much as possible. There is the flip side for those things that you've got to do that have to get done, the things that you don't like doing, the things that
Yeah.
help get you from point A to point B. The motivation is the consequence, right?
Mhm.
It's the negative thing that comes along with not doing it. So it's not
Right.
fun to think about. It's not like, oh, Deb, you love psychology, so you're going to go sign up for classes and study psychology because you're excited about it. You love doing that. You love learning about it. That's easy. It's not like, hey, I don't want to show up to work today. Well, I'm just going to call in sick. I'm going to call in sick again. And you keep doing that. Well, what's the consequence? The consequence is that you're going to lose your job and you're not
Right.
going to make money and it's going to be a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the consequence at that point becomes the motivation. It's like you either do it, and if you don't do it, this is the negative thing that can happen from it. And so I think
Right.
it's interesting. The positive or the negative
Yeah.
motivation can kind of get you going. Hopefully most of
Yeah.
our motivation is positive, but sometimes we need
Right.
that negative motivation, I think, to get us going. Like you have to understand the consequences of not doing something or doing something that you're not supposed to do, and understanding how that will negatively impact your life is a great
Right.
motivator. It's not a fun
Yeah.
one, but it's a good
Yeah.
one. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I look at my motivators as consequences.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do this, then this is going to happen. And I don't, I don't want that to happen. I'm responsible for myself
Yeah.
and I'd rather do this extra step so that this will be the outcome instead. It's just, it's about outcomes too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think do you think people consider you, like in your friends circle, do people consider you someone who motivates them?
Um, I guess. I don't know.
All right, that's
Maybe
our next poll. We'll put that out there.
minor.
Does Deb motivate you? If you're one of her friends, reach out. No, and I
Depends on
think what's that?
what depends on what the topic is to motivate you to go wine tasting. Yeah.
Fair enough. There we go.
um, I don't know. I guess I would have to take a poll. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this because obviously there's different. I think there's different types of motivation, and I think there's
Mhm.
some people again like our friend. I mean, he's a motivational speaker. My friend Kevin Brazy. He's been on this podcast before. By trade, by definition, his job is to motivate people. He stands up in front of elementary schools and middle schools and high schools and corporate events and athletes, anybody and everybody. But he's brought in because he has a God given talent to speak to people and do it at a really high level. And
Right.
so he can motivate people, and you can walk out of a session with Kevin and just think like you can conquer the world. That's what he does. So much of his motivation comes from the words that he's speaking and the energy that he brings. Even if you call Kevin, I'm not going to give his
Yeah.
number out, but when you call Kevin and you go to voicemail, even his voicemail is motivational. Like and he'll change it all the time. It's like a motivational message, even as you're waiting to leave your message. And so it's like, that's all he does is just motivation. And obviously he's got an incredible work ethic, but like when you think of Kevin, the first thing you think of is the words that he speaks. Other
Mhm.
people, they're not the ones that are going to be out there rah but they're the motivational side of them comes from just watching them live life.
Yeah.
And so for example, for you, I'm just curious if, I can't imagine you're just there like trying to motivate everybody. Maybe you are verbally, but the fact that everything you said and the person that you go after those things that you're passionate about. You aren't afraid to fail. You'll try something. If it doesn't work, you'll move on to the next thing. I imagine that amongst your friends and family, that is a motivating thing. Like I'm sure that's inspired some people to try stuff as well, just based on the way you live your life. Not even saying like, hey, you guys should go out and do this too, but you just by doing what you do, I think that would motivate people.
I hope so. I don't, I don't know. But yeah, I always tell my, I try to convey the idea to my friends and family, like, you do what you want to do. Like, we all don't have to live the same life. Like, if you want to do that, like, well, my friends and I will talk about different topics. Like, we'll get each other's advice. We'll ask for advice. Like, that's what our friend group does. And at the end of the day, it's like, are you happy? Like, is this what you want to do? Then great. Like, don't feel like you have to do more, or, don't feel like you can't do more than what you want to do. So, I don't know. I don't know how motivating I am, like verbally, but like I always just try to convey I do my thing. My friends know I do my thing. My dad even has always told me, well, your Dev's gonna do it. Dev's gonna do, you're gonna do it. Like I always knew you were just gonna do what you're gonna do. So I'm not worried about you. So, but like I try things and I'm not afraid to, whatever, to fail, and that's okay. But I do always try to convey the whole, like, hey, like, what do you like doing? What are you passionate about? Then go do that.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah. So to answer your question, I'd like to think I am, but we'll have to take a poll. We'll have to ask my friends.
We'll
They
talk to them.
it might take them a few rounds of shit talking to like get the answer out of them. But
To be honest with you, that's all I really want. The
yeah.
question is just the vehicle to get the the trash talk and the real scoop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
I will
she's
say that
motivational, but let me tell you about these five other things. Like, oh, that's why I'm here. Let me have it.
I have heard my friends say this about me, that I'm smarter than I look. And I don't know if I should be insulted or complimented by that, or maybe a little bit of both. So that just sums up my relationship with them.
That's interesting because I've had people tell me that I'm probably
Little
dumber than I look. Like, ooh, ouch. I get it. It's fine, but you need to verbalize it or try to hurt my feelings.
little backhanded compliment.
I don't even think that mine was not a compliment at all. It was just a double dig. Um, you did post a picture on your stories the other day, and I think you said something like your legs are shorter than they appear.
Yeah.
I second that. Just as in general as a person, Deb's much shorter than you think she is.
I don't know why in all my pictures my legs look hella long. I'm like, and I look at it, I take it and I look at it and I'm like, why do I look like an Amazon in this picture? Like, my legs are not. I'm 5'5" on a good day. Like,
Sure.
are like 5'4" arguably. So like I don't know why. I don't know if that's just how my body is built. Maybe my legs are long and the rest of my body is short. I don't know, but that's why I'm like, yeah, legs in a photo are shorter than they appear.
It was
I don't
just
know.
like, yeah, she made it seem like it was just a pair of legs and then a head was sitting on top of her jeans. There was no torso, no shoulder. It was just a head
Nothing.
sitting on her waist.
I'm
Has
like,
that,
cool. I like, cool. This is great. Like, nice.
um, yeah, that would be wild. I don't know if it's ever happened, but if you went on some date and some guy thought that you were an Amazon,
Yeah. I've had guys
he's like,
ask about
ooh,
how,
I
like,
thought you were like 6'2".
yeah, yeah, but no, yeah. I'd like to say I'm average. I feel like my friends that I have are mostly taller than me, but I have a few friends that are shorter than me. I am on the little shorter side, but yeah, I'm like, I don't know, I'm average, 5'5". It's average, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like an Amazon next to my friend who's 4'11", though. I feel like the biggest person.
That may,
I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. You're so tiny. Like, I feel like my legs are hella long next to her. It's
sure,
great.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about this before. I've had this conversation with people. Like I'm 6 feet tall. It is a very nice privilege that you don't really take too much time to think about, especially as a guy. Like just being 6 feet tall is a really nice thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean that as no disrespect to anybody who's short. Hear me clearly. I don't. But like having that 6 foot privilege is pretty nice. It is pretty nice. I don't mind the view from up here.
Sometimes I climb on my counters because I have to get something from the tall shelves, or I get my stool and I get up and I look around my apartment and I'm like, is this what a tall person feels like? Do they get to see from way up here? It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, no. So I thought we have just a few more minutes here. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I thought that, like I said, the motivation conversation was interesting. But I guess I do think it's something to keep in mind for anybody who's listening. Whether you're someone who constantly verbalizes motivation to your family and friends, or if you're someone who just has such an amazing work ethic and has such an amazing drive, um, and passion for life, and maybe you don't verbalize things that often, but you're just someone who just kind of puts their nose down and just keeps going after the things that they love, and just gets stuff done. Whatever
Yeah.
boat you fall in, I think that does help us connect with people. And I think it does motivate and inspire the people around us. And they may not realize it, but if they can point to you and use you as an example of someone who is incredibly motivational, either, by the things that you say or the things that you do, and hopefully both. Maybe you're someone who speaks those things into existence and also backs it up with the way you live your life. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And I think that does help people connect with us. And I think it helps us connect with others as well. And so hopefully anybody who's listening to this is someone that people can point to within your family, within your community, within your friends, at your job, and they can look at you and say, man, that is a person that I want to be more like. And that's a person I want to learn more about, because whatever they're doing, the way they're doing it is inspirational and motivational for me. So hopefully everybody, understands that that's a great way of connecting with people. And sometimes it's weird. Sometimes when you're like that, when you live life like that, sometimes you connect with people. It's almost like people connect with you without you even realizing it, because they're
Right.
they're watching you from afar and they're seeing what you do. And then, you have these random conversations like, hey, I've noticed that you do X, Y, and Z. Like what's that about? It's like, oh, I don't really know you that well, and I didn't realize you were watching me like that. But like, that's cool that my life has inspired you in such a way that you wanted to ask that question. And
Yeah.
so, I think motivation again is a great connector. And I think it's something that can really spread, like it can become contagious. When you have a motivated person, because I think like we all get inspired by that person. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh man, that's amazing that person's doing that. That person, accomplished this ultra marathon. That's amazing. I don't want to do an ultra marathon, but like, what can I do to kind of push myself as well? And so that's just something
Yeah.
to keep in mind. I think motivation is a cool thing, and I think it really does help us connect with people.
Yeah. Well, I think if I can use an example of who motivates me in my life, a lot of my friends do, and
Sure.
a lot of people in my life motivate me to, again, like, hey, this is what you're good at. Like, you could, and if I get their ideas out, they're like, oh, you'd be great at that. Like when I when I'm telling people that I'm getting another master's and it's in psychology this time, I think I said in the last episode, they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
that tracks. But like Kaylin, so she runs my massage page, my social media. She's really good at like graphic design. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but
Yeah.
like just putting things together, uh, like that. I don't have an artistic brain in that way. Like I guess maybe I do a little bit, but like not to her level. And so she does that for me, but she's also like taking classes on it, kind of,
Nice.
so, right. So, but she likes doing it and she's good at it. And I'm like, Galen, you need to start your side business of like this graphic design, marketing, like advertising for people. Like you are really good at it. And so watching her do that, I think in part did motivate me to be like, let me just take these site classes because this is what I like doing and like learning about. And so, yeah, so I do have friends in my life who will like do things that they like to do, and they're like, I don't know, I'm just going to see where it goes, and it makes them happy. So I'm like, so
Yeah.
um, I don't know if I do that for others, but I do have friends in my life who do that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's cool. And see, again, that's just one of those things where it's like that motivation can kind of get bounced around a little bit. And it's like you're passing it to someone, they get motivated, you pass it to someone else. And then, before you know it, you have just a bunch of motivated people that are inspired to do all these different things. So I think that's awesome. And I think it's great to be connected with people like that, and multiple people like that, you know? Um, so I think that's awesome. And I did want to say this too, and we'll just touch on this briefly because we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. But um, I do think a motivator for me at least, and I think for you too, is competition. And we can talk about competition in more depth at a different point. Again, this is one of those things where like I feel like competition I always associate with my other podcasts, but it does apply here too. And I think if you have a healthy amount of competition within you, that's a great motivator. And what I'm not saying is that it's competition to the point where you're tearing people down or stepping on people to get ahead. Like that's not what I'm talking about. But I think there needs to be a healthy level of competition within us that sees things or sees people doing things that you like doing or you want to do, and
Mhm.
kind of having that fire within you. It's like, well, I can do that too, and maybe I can reach their same level, or maybe I can do it better than them. Again, not in a way to tear them down, but you're being motivated by other people who are doing great things, and I think internally you want to do great things too, and you want to do it at that same level. And
Mhm.
so I think competition, especially if you engage in competition that is causing you or the people around you to push each other further, that's a great
Mhm.
thing because that becomes another motivator for you, and you're
Yeah.
doing it in the confines of connection with family and friends who are doing awesome things. And again, it's not so much a, hey, I want to try to one up that person, but it's like, man, I want to try to keep up in this race. I see this
Yeah.
person's running at this pace. I want to run at that pace too. And
Yeah.
whatever they're doing in their career, in their hobbies, in their fitness, like you see people, it's like, man, I want to be able to do that same type of thing. So let me try to catch up to where they're at and to see if I can use that as motivation to keep me going. At the end of the day, it's something that you have to do in yourself, and it becomes a competition with yourself. But
Mhm.
seeing other people do amazing things, I think causes us to want to do amazing things too. So I think that competition is a really important part of motivation. And,
Yeah.
you know, and let's be honest, we've said this before. I'm sure we've said this on air. We've seen you're a better person than I am. I think this often, but there's times where we've seen podcasts that are, all over the country that are similar to our level, and I've walked away thinking like, I think what we do is better. And I think that's a motivator for me. It's like, we got to keep doing it because I think what we're doing is better than what these 5 podcasts are doing. There's also a side where we've seen podcasts and I'm like, we are not doing nearly enough and we suck at podcasting because these 5 or 6 podcasts are doing it they're kind of at a similar level to us, but they're doing things way better than we are.
Mhm.
And so just personally, like that's something I use as motivation and competition as far as the podcast. I don't know
Yeah.
if Deb thinks about it that way, but you can tell by her face, she does not. Deb's a better person than me. Deb's like the floating gypsy who's like, no, we can all have a podcast. I'm like, some of them suck and we can do better than that.
I just don't listen to them if I think they suck. I just tune out so fast.
I will tune in sometimes to say like, we can do better than this. We can do better than this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
that means that Deb's a better person than I am.
There you go. I hope that motivates everybody.
There we go.
Great to
So
end on.
what's that?
So that was great to end.
Yeah. Hopefully that motivates you. Don't be like me in that sense.
Yeah.
But any other
Yeah.
thoughts before we get out of here, Deb?
No, yeah. I just, if you want to, you will. And I'm sorry. I just, if you
There
want
we
to,
go.
you will.
We'll put that on a shirt.
There you go. Yep. It's going to be my motto for the year. I've been trying to find a word or a phrase or whatever
Oh
for
yeah.
this new year. Blah, blah, blah. My friends usually pick a word. I pick one and then I forget it halfway through the year. I'm like, what was my word? I don't know. But I'm going to try to stick with this one. If you want to, you will. And that's for me. If anyone wants to take it, cool. We feel free to steal it. There's plenty to go around. But like, I think that's going to be for me. If I want to, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
don't, I won't.
Exactly.
There you go. That could be
Yeah.
the front and the back of the shirt. There you
Yeah.
go.
And if I don't, I won't.
Yeah.
So you'll know if I don't want to. I'm not going to do it.
There we go. Wise words to live by.
Yep. Simple.
Simple.
Hmm.
Just keep it
Yeah.
easy and just keep it moving. So there you go.
Yeah.
Deb,
Yeah.
where can they follow us on social media?
You guys can follow us on Twitter at Connectable Pod and any other social media platform like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok at Connectable Podcast.
Yep.
I almost said Twitter twice.
That's okay. Which
It's so
would
bad.
be funny because you don't even use it once. So
I can't. One social media at a time. One.
What is it?
And then,
Just Instagram.
yeah. Well, I have Snap, but I just have a Snap streak going with my friends.
Yeah, we talked about
And
that last time. Yeah,
yeah, I have TikTok, but I haven't opened it or looked at messages in forever. I can't. It's too much.
Facebook, anything like that?
Things. I'll casually scroll on Facebook sometimes, but not really. I'm on Instagram every day. I'm looking at my business page. I'm looking at my personal page, but I'm happy with just that.
Yeah, it's probably better that way.
Too many things.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
Thanks
lot
for
to keep
handling
up
all
with.
those pages because I can't do it.
Oh, that was never a situation where I thought I'm gonna hand this over to Deb.
I don't even handle my business Instagram page. Kaylin does.
I know.
I answer messages and I answer DMs direct. Like that's me.
Sure.
But posts all that. That's so I don't even. Yeah, I don't even do that.
Okay. Yep. Do you ever, because we talked about the caffeine at the beginning of this, have you ever massaged someone when you were all hopped up on caffeine? Would that affect the way you perform a massage?
Yeah, because if I start shaking, that's not good. I'm
Yeah.
too hopped up. So I try to be careful. Like if I have caffeine
Yeah,
on the way to a massage, I'm trying to make sure I have something to eat too to offset it.
sure,
Like a little bit. Like I have a snack on the way, depending on how far away it is.
sure.
But I have to. Yeah, I need to have food in me if I want some caffeine on the way.
Yeah, that
If I
would not
start
be great. They walk away with more problems than they walked in with.
yeah,
It's like
shaking,
she just shook me the whole time.
it's just like vibrations.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I'm not doing this on purpose. It was the caffeine.
Massage.
There you go. So, okay, anyways, and please follow us on all those places. And then if you could subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app, please do so that you get a new episode every week as soon as we release it. As soon as we release it, that would be great. And then if you would be so kind, please give us a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would help us out tremendously. So thank you guys so much. As always, next week, stay tuned because next week we have our Valentine's Day episode, which will be a lot of fun. We haven't talked too much about that, but I'm speaking it into existence and now we have to do it. That's our motivation. That's our
Yeah.
motivation. We either do it or look like idiots. So Valentine's Day episode next week. And pretty soon here, we'll also start getting some guest episodes out there because I'm sure you guys are tired of listening to just me and Deb ramble about things. So, or maybe you love it and then you'll be disappointed when we have a guest, but give our guests a chance. They're always awesome. So, yeah, there we go.
Cool.
Deb, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Next week.
See
See you
you
later.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.